Welcome to my voiceover world.
Those should be the right things to happen.
Hey there.
Hi there. Oh, there. You're as welcome as can be. Mickey Mouse Club. Anyone? All right. Great. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. It's been almost like, how do I say this? Like 3 years since we meet each other.
But who's counting?
The last time I saw you was 3 years ago in 2022.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Yup,
Great to be back.
yup. And this is me right now. My
Fantastic.
new current state.
Congratulations. Welcome to the present.
I'm honored you say that. Well, you know, I've been wanting to say this to you, Mike, but I've been getting to see some of your recent projects right there. And to be quite honest, it turns out to be quite the most splendid projects that you've gotten yourself into, which I'm proud of you for that.
Thank you. I love the opportunity. I love working. I love performing. I love playing. It's great fun.
Of course. That's what everybody goes through.
We can
Now,
only hope.
there is something in my mind that I've been wanting to tell you, but um, what was your first ever voice acting role again? Because I'm trying to get my memory refreshing up.
Well, it depends. If you're counting radio, it goes back to the 80s. But most people would count something I did on video. So
Like
that's going to be Little Tug's Big Adventure around about 2000.
oh,
Where it's live action footage of boats in New York Harbor, and I voiced all the mail boats.
oh, I'm just trying to make sure because I did remember you telling me about about 2 years ago when you told me about this first ever project that you've got yourself into, like your first ever anime you were brought into, which
Well,
had
the first ever anime would be Demon Fighter Kocho. That would be back in about 2001.
I see. Because I'm just trying to make sure because all I know is that when I was searching up your IMDb credits, I'm beginning to notice that right down there in the bottom says about Lunatic Night down there. And it had me questioned. Could that be his first ever project? No, that can't be. I
No,
need answers. So that's why I seek you so that I can be able to understand clearly.
and Demon Fighter Kocho is the correct answer to your question if we're counting anime types.
Oh, good. I'm just trying to make sure so that I could be able to just sort things out correctly
Yeah,
in the matter so that that way I won't have anything to worry about. But hey,
gotcha.
I am so happy that you told me the correct answer I seek.
Certain.
But now I'm glad you told me. Now without
Thanks
further
for asking.
ado, I have the questions about the characters, like some of them from the past and some that you currently have been doing recently. Now,
Okay.
like one from the past will be this. How does it feel about stepping into the role of the character Polo Noise in The Kings of Braves Go Guile Gear back in 2006?
It brings back some far off memories, but it was a fine, fine time. Fairly quick session, as I recall, and otherwise uneventful, but always tons of fun.
Hmm. That's quite interesting to hear from you, because all I know is that Mark DeRozan and Michael Sertinicolas did a very awesome job directing you there, especially when you get to be serving under John Avner, who I got to meet with like months ago. And honestly, it's like, boy, you really are good at serving someone else there, which unfortunately that show only dubbed for 25 episodes before I got canceled for no reason. It's like,
Yes, well,
because one of these days, that show should be recognized and be redubbed in a certain of matter so that way the whole entire dubbing can be fully complete. Because, you know,
it's a very competitive business, so not everything can go on for more than a bunch of episodes.
yeah. Now, playing Mayotoshi Anzai in the first slam dunk must have been so exciting, right? So what's your most favorite aspect about bringing that character into the movie?
He was a very wise and patient man, and I'm these days not often playing wise and patient men. So it was a delightful change of pace, as one would say.
That's very most interesting to hear from you. Because to be quite fair with you, that movie is on Netflix right now, the f first slam dunk, and that Michael Certenicolas again did a most awesome job bringing you in there, especially when you give advice to a lot of people there, such as like Paul Castro Jr., who's like the main character of the entire movie, and
Mhm.
also and that and I'm so happy that Michael did the right thing bringing you here for his own
He,
sake.
he's a fine, fine director and studio.
Now, without further ado, in the movie Promare, what stood out about you voicing the character Deus Premeth?
It was a very brief encounter. It doesn't appear in for the film for very long, so it was a very quick and efficient session with a little bonus wallow thrown in just to fill up the time. But a delightful session nonetheless.
Hmm, that's nice to hear from you. Because hey, let's just say you being part of that movie was very outstanding right there. Plus, you get to interact with Billy Kometz and Johnny on Bosch in a scene together. And that scene
Absolutely.
where you got killed off by Crispin Freeman, I was like, Crispin! You'll pay for this, Crispin! So, but eventually in the movie, he got what he deserved. So, yeah.
Mhm.
But hey, Michael Schneider and Michael again did an awesome job directing you throughout the film when it comes to, showing a lot of good aspects and good storytelling.
Thank you very much. And thank them.
Yes, of course. Now, your character, Yoshio Tasakari in My Happy Marriage must have been so awesome to be, right? So what made that role so special to you?
Well, generally, as with any role, they asked me to play. So I got to come in and play. And we had a tremendous fun time, lots of laughs. Good time was had by all.
Hmm. Well, that's nice to hear from you, because all I know is that My Happy Marriage, like years ago in 2023, was like a very good thing right there, and that you
Mhm.
being part of it as a nice grandfather of Damon Haas, who's like this autistic voice actor like me, who's like very awesome being known for being in a lot of good projects, and you being in there alongside Jason Griffith and everybody else was like a very good thing. I give props to Taya Ballard for directing you.
Thank you. We had a fine, fine time. Great fun and an honor to be a part of.
Well, I'm glad that the whole entire show just gets recognized for its intuition, of course.
Of course.
Now, you being part of the movie Memories as General Officer, which I'll call him General Officer Pollock, named after
Mhm.
you, and the
Thank you.
father must have been so unique, right? So what made those roles so awesome to you in the entire film?
Well, it's always an honor and a challenge to play two different characters throughout the film. And this was another opportunity just like that. So I enjoy the chance to show a little variety whenever possible.
Hmm. Well, that's nice to hear from you, Mike. Because I actually made a video for you like years ago about the characters and voice actors of Memories, which I included you next to Bill Butts there. Because, hey, you're like going all angry at Bill for trying to knowing what he's really up to. Because I give props to Amberly Connors of Sound Cadence Studios for bringing you into there. Plus,
Thank you.
I did notice one funny thing. But the funny thing is that both Sound Cadence Studios and NYAV Post was have collaborated with each other to do that film right there. It's like,
Mhm.
boy, what in the world is going on these days? So,
It's
yeah.
a crazy business we have.
You could say that again, Mike, because that's what everybody has been going through a lot. So,
Mhm.
that's something I like to say. And speaking of another project that you were brought into by Sound Cadence, but what's so awesome when you got to be in the anime show Re Cutie Honey as Detective Tokomura? Oh,
Always an honor to play a law enforcement officer, even pretending for just a few minutes.
Well, that's something else there. Because well, I'm just saying because honestly, it's like seeing another project that you were brought into. Because hey, you got to interact with Jessica Covilo, and of course, you got to interact with Natalie Von Sisten. Plus, the best part is Grayson was also part of it too. You know that?
Mm, Rain gets around.
Because, hey, it's all part of you just being part of that project was just very awesome there. I give props to David Weld for just directing you throughout the entire project there.
Thank
So you
you.
know.
Another fine, fine experience.
Well, that's good to hear from you. And I'm glad that happens right there. Well then, speaking of another project from the past I'd like to tell to you, but what's so awesome when you got to play the character Professor Otoy in Twin Signal?
Hmm. Yes, another NYAV Post project. Great fun. Uh, that was a lot of laughs and some great characterizations.
Well, that's nice to hear from you, 'cause I got to, I got to meet Kevin D. Collins and of course John Afner throughout the show, 'cause they told me themselves that them being part of that project was just very awesome, especially for
Hmm.
Kevin on the other hand, who literally gets to do the whole screaming there. And you just explaining to Michelle Newman about the past, about why he created the main character for, just so that things can turn out in hand. But
Hmm.
Michael Nicholas, on the other hand, did awesome directing you throughout the entire project there. It only lasts for 3 episodes, and that's all due to it being an OAVA, by all means.
But still a great story.
It is indeed. Now, without further ado, I'd like to ask you this, but what's so awesome when you got to be in the show Giant Robo the Animation as the voice of Issei and Professor Shuzuma?
Ah, sure, an excellent, excellent franchise and a great honor to be a part of. All I remember is the giant robo, very big, because he's a giant robo.
That's very awesome to hear. Because, hey, you being part of that show was just super awesome. Now, without further ado, about a past work that you did there, but in the show, Hades Project Zerrimer, what's so awesome when you got to be both the narrator and that character, Laura Han?
Again, another challenge of playing two different roles, and I hope they were distinct enough to make that a valued opportunity.
Well, that's nice to hear from you. Because, let's just say that you being part of that project was just something else there. Because, hey, let's just say that that entire film was just only last for 4 episodes and just, you know, just haven't been shown ever since. But it
Hmm.
is to be remembered because of, some videos that I've been doing lately.
Sure, it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah. Now, without further ado, your character, Dong Santiet Homing from the show One Piece, must have been so awesome to be, right? So, what's so awesome about bringing that character into that show?
One of the great things about being in finally being in One Piece is it kind of comes full circle from when I was doing One Piece promos at 4Kids. I was never actually in One Piece at the time, but thanks to changing of hands of studios, I was able to be in One Piece many, many years later, and that was nice.
Well, that's nice to hear from you, because, hey, you being part of that show was just the most splendid thing that you ever deserved there. Being a father of both Ray Chase and Robert McCollum was just something else there. Because
Hmm.
that was before Robert McCollum, without spoiling anything to the fans right there, but he gets killed off because of, your character gets killed off because of Robert himself.
Hmm.
It's like, man, why does he even do that for if he knew he cared about his children so much? It
The
just ends
tragic
up,
ending.
yeah, tragic endings does happen in a way, but it is what it is for anybody who knows of this. So yeah, that's something I'm beginning to learn these days. Well, about my latest update about you there, but what's so awesome when you got to be in the show The Great Pretender as the voice of Kudo?
Yes, another fine experience. Again, got to audition, and they liked my audition, so I got to show up and play.
Nice to hear from what I'm seeing so far, because, it's all part of that. I give props to Kyle McCarley and Michael Schneider for directing you throughout the series there, especially when you get to interact with Alan Lee there, along with everybody else. And yet again, Fred Tatasciore himself was involved in the show. You know that?
Hmm.
Because, Fred is just like a legendary treasure, like the very first actors I got to meet with. You- So, yeah.
Always an honor to cross paths, if only virtually.
Why, of course. I did know this once that, if I'm not mistaken, I believe you guys recorded the entire show during the pandemic, right?
Yes, so it was a bit of a challenge building a home studio from scratch, pretty much, but we somehow made it work.
I see. I'm just checking to make sure because I did notice from someone I interviewed with weeks ago telling me the exact same thing that when he was recording the show for NYFA Post, he has himself in a voice recording studio at his home to making sure he has the right adjustments to have clear quality and not let anything interfere with any work or something like that. So yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm.
It's pretty standard.
Yeah. Now, without further ado, your character Koichiri Kamayoshi in Haragashi When They Cry must have been a very nice character to you played as, right? So
Yeah,
what's so awesome when you got to play him?
delightful range of emotions. So I got to really stretch the acting chops. Always a pleasure.
That's nice to hear from you. Because, hey, Michelle Rojas did a very awesome job just directing you throughout the entire series there. And especially when you get to interact with everybody there, like Michelle and you know that Patrick Scythe was even involved in it too?
Who knew? I didn't know.
Well, that's why I'm telling you this, because
Yeah.
that way you know that in these kind of projects, it's just something everybody goes through.
Hmm.
So yeah. Now, without further ado, in the show Oku, The Inner Chambers, what's so awesome when you got to be these three characters throughout the entire project? The Sotsu's father and the Baron, and of course, Karaku.
Sure. If there's one thing more challenging than playing two characters, it's playing three characters. And that was the elusive hat trick of acting opportunities.
Well, that's nice to hear from you, cause cause you just being part of that show was just something else there. Plus, I give props to Carrie Carnan for bringing you into that show, cause it's on Netflix right now. So that's why that's why whenever you feel like it, you just watch it later on, so you can be
Mhm.
able to see you there. And you know what
I'm
the
on
most
demand.
yeah. Now then, about the other characters you played as. What's so awesome when you got to be Dong Zhao in Wolong Fallen Dynasty?
Great fun, a great mystical storyline, uh, beautiful colors and artwork, as I recall, to look at. So, a great honor to be a part of that.
Well, that's nice to hear. Because you just being part of it was just must have been so exciting for you, right?
I'll say a
Yes,
great honor.
a great honor, you say. And that Tom Wayland did a very awesome job just bringing you there, alongside Dominic and Fahad, on the other hand.
Yes, all fine people. Always great to be directed by any one of the three of them.
Yes, indeed. Now, without further ado, about the latest project, well, about years ago when the updated version of the show Doctor Stone. What's so awesome when you got to manifest as the voice for Yokov Natakin? I'm trying to get his name right, just Yokov.
It's about right. Nice opportunity to drag out the old Russian accent, which I don't get to use nearly enough. And since there's a little Russian heritage in my background, it was kind of a full circle moment as well.
Well, that's nice to hear. Because you just being part, you've been part of the third season of the entire Doctor Stone there, and I give props to the voice director himself. All right, Chris George for
Mhm.
directing you throughout the entire series there, because that's what makes the anime just very awesome in a way. So yeah.
I agree.
About your character, Giman Sinata in the show Prince of Tennis 2 special must have been so awesome, right? So what's
Hmm.
your most favorite thing about being that character in that project?
It's about being able to be involved in the sport of tennis without the actual sweating and hard work.
Interesting. That's nice to hear. Because just so you know, I Sound Cadence, the one who directed you in some projects, especially to Howard Wang, who did a good job just directing you throughout the entire series there. Because that's the thing about working with a lot of young people, just understanding their ways of doing awesome stuff in life.
Exactly right.
Uh, that's right. Well then. In the show, Kingdom, the third season, as Tan Yao must have been so cool, right? So what's so awesome about being that character in that entire project?
Well, it was a wonderful virtual experience of a wonderful cast, which as since I'm usually recording separately, couldn't interact with them directly, but it was the delight to interact with them at least virtually and slightly asynchronously.
Well, that's nice to hear from you. But you being part of it was just very nice. I give props to David Jordan Chen and Francisca Kello for directing you throughout the entire series, especially when it comes to just being part of many scenes there, just going all out with just the yelling, the whole swordsman and everything.
Of
Sounds about
course,
right, correct?
absolutely. Big and loud, that's what we do.
Yeah, that's kind of a thing there.
Hmm.
And without further ado, about your other characters you played as, but your character, Professor Ochosimo from the show Pluto, must have been the most unique but legendary character you played as, right? So, what's your most favorite aspect about bringing that character throughout the entire show?
The drama of this story, there was a lot of heartfelt emotion that I don't usually get to deal with. And that was a joy as an actor. Always a joy to reach in the old bag of emotions and pull out something new and dramatic.
Well, that's nice to hear from you, because I actually watched the show Pluto years ago, and I cried throughout the entire show there, especially when you on the other hand, were like the my very awesome being a very good grandfather there, just showing off interacting with Jessica DiCicco, who was involved in this show, and and you know what the best part is?
Mhm.
You got to interact with Keith David himself in a scene together. It's like
Hmm.
seeing Doctor Eggman and Spawn being put together. And it's part of a video right there that was actually been part of it. It's like, oh, and I give props to Patrick Seitz for directing you throughout the thing.
Hmm.
Plus, the best part is I met Patrick himself, and that he I told him that I made a video for you and everybody else 2 years ago involving the characters and voice actors of the show, and I included you in there, Mike, to help give you the recognition you deserve. Eh,
Thank you so much.
Here's what I do.
Of
Plus,
course.
plus the funny thing is, I put you next to Keith David as a way to show off a little bit of steam there. Show that,
Thank you.
man, you
Most
just
appreciated.
here's what I do. Now then,
Of course.
without without further ado, I have a few last questions due to the time
Yeah,
limit there. But
sure.
your characters, Dr. Eggman and Gerald Robotnik from both Sonic Frontiers and Shadow Generations must have been very developed and very cool, right? So what's your most
Sure.
favorite development that you have brought from the characters?
It's great to revisit Gerald Robotnik, who I first portrayed back in Sonic X, along with Dr. Eggman, of course. But Gerald hadn't resurfaced for a while. But great to dig him up out of the old bag of tricks as well. And of course, Dr. Eggman, the gift that keeps on giving. Always a delight to be associated with him.
Hmm. Well, that's nice to hear from you, because all I know is that I've been playing both Sonic Frontiers and Shadow Generations, and that you just being directed throughout the games was just the unique choice there. For Sonic Frontiers, there are two things I noticed there. That number one, that's Roger Craig Smith's voice direction of Sonic was just very, very unique there. Like
Mhm.
a more better, awesome job there. Esp- When he's gone more into a deep tone and more mature, along with everybody else's there, which that game actually helped improve a lot of people there, especially you, my friend. And the
Yeah,
second
so
thing is that that scene with you and Ryan Bartley together was just super awesome and emotional at the same time when he
mhm.
called Ryan Bartley dear daughter, which I was in tears when I heard that, because you acted more like a father rather than just an evil scientist. Because hey,
Thank you.
everybody goes through a lot of personal experiences when it comes to dealing with a lot of good stuff in mind. And
Sure. Always great to add some dimension to a character.
as for Gerald Robotnik, on the other hand, he's like he's like going through a lot of things that, boy, him interacting with Shadow was just the best choice there, especially when
Mhm.
he actually was being honest to him and just telling him the real truth there. And I got to meet Black Doom himself, Ben Deskin, which on the other hand was just the most awesome thing. And
Mhm.
by the very end of the game, you called Shadow Kirk Thornton your son, which is like
Mhm.
I was like, boy, is it me or is he like his own grandson, like Ivo Robotnik, where he calls him son and Ivo calls Sage dear daughter.
Something like that. But the family keeps expanding. So who knows?
Yeah, and that's why I love about your characters that much. They just they just being honest about it and just prefer to just let things play off. And it's some that is what I do. Always. Well then, Mike, it is such an honor to meeting you again, my friend.
Thanks, Sebastian. Great to be back. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, there's one more thing I'd like to
Sure.
ask you.
Please.
When people look back on your work, how do you want to be remembered as a voice actor?
I hope I made you laugh for all the right reasons. And occasionally made you cry, also for all the right reasons. My goal is to entertain. So I hope you've been entertained.
Hmm. Well, I'm glad you've been entertaining me since the day I first saw you in 4Kids since I was a child.
Thanks, Sebastian.
Of course, especially from a childhood voice actor I know of. But I do know this. I know that you're gonna be in that upcoming Sonic Racing Crossworlds game. Because if you're in it, then I'd be gladly to see you again there, my friend.
Thank you. I hope you enjoy it.
Of course, that is what I do.
Of
Just here
course.
to support a lot of people there.
Most appreciated.
Well, Mike, it's such an honor to finally meeting you, and I hope we get to work with each other in the near future when the time comes.
Fingers crossed.
Of course. Well, Mike, hope you do something awesome and just have a good day, my friend.
Thanks so much, Sebastian. Be well.
Thank you.
Want to keep up with my journey? Follow me on social media for more updates, behind the scenes moments, and all the fun along the way.